Welcome to Season 5 of SheVentures. I am your host, Doria Lavanino. SheVentures is a podcast about women and their work and life pivots. I believe in the power of storytelling. I also believe that if you change one woman's life, you start to change a family or a community. Our mission is to elevate the diverse stories of everyday women in their work. One promise, no mansplaining ever. Sit back, listen, and hit subscribe. We'd love to hear from you. You can find us at SheVenturesPodcast.com. She spent nearly 2 decades working at the global marketing research company Nielsen. She is known as a pioneer who shifted the way the nation regards Black Americans' spending power and cultural influence. 5 years ago, she started her own firm, Powerful Penny, an executive coaching firm for people who want to be intentional about identifying and achieving the next level in their careers. Here to tell us about what she calls fabulosity is Cheryl Grace. Cheryl, welcome to SheVentures.
Thank you, Doria. So great to be here.
It is great to have you. I wanted to start by asking you a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up, and maybe something about a person or an event that had a major impact on you.
I am originally from Fort Wayne, Indiana. So I'm a Hoosier by nature. I grew up along with a large family. So I have like 64 first cousins. I'm the oldest of 6 girls. My mother had 10 siblings. Well, there are 10 on her side, including herself. So a big loving family. My grandma was 4 feet, 11 inches tall. And she had never learned how to drive, never learned how to ride a bike, never really saw any part of the world. She was pregnant for like 10 consecutive years and then had all of these grandbabies. And she was the person who really fulfilled in my heart that I could dream bigger. And she told me, she would call me, my middle name is Lynn, and she would call me Cheryl DeLindy. And she would say, "Oh, Cheryl DeLindy, just make sure you see the world. Go see the world. And if you can, do it on somebody else's dime." And I took that to heart and have enjoyed roles that have taken me all over the world. I still travel and I think about grandma every time I go somewhere.
That's a beautiful story. And it's amazing to me how often I hear that it's people's grandmothers who have a major impact on their lives. So that is the same for you. And then earlier in your career, you worked for various organizations, nonprofits, a boutique marketing agency, a local NBC affiliate in Chicago, television affiliate. At that point in your career, were you intentional about your goals, or was it a little too early? Were you kind of trying things on and seeing how they felt?
I got intentional about my goals. I would say there are 2 points of intentions that throughout my career, I feel were kind of milestone markers for me. The first was when my very first job, right out of college, I was making a whopping $17,000 a year. And it wasn't what I went to college for, but I thought it was a great stepping stone to my next role. I vowed then that I was going to do the best work that I could possibly do, even though I didn't love the work. That got me noticed. It allowed me to have the highest performance evaluation in the entire company one year. My boss, who was the VP of the advertising department, was thrilled by that and called this big meeting to make the announcement that someone on his team had gotten the highest performance evaluation of anybody in the entire company. And when they announced that it was me and everybody was excited, I went out of that meeting and I called my mom and asked her if I could move back home because I was going to quit my job. My girlfriend who worked at the company, she was like, what would make you quit your job now? Like, I knew that if I could do something so amazing for a job I didn't have passion for, imagine what I could do if I worked somewhere where I really loved what I was doing. That was the first milestone for me in terms of living with intentionality. Only do work that you love. The second milestone for me was I refused to go and settle in. I made a pact with myself that every 4 years, I would either move up or out. So I was either going to be promoted or I was going to take my ball and bat and go someplace else that valued what I had to bring to the table at that next level.
That's amazing. You had a 4-year clock, basically, that was your countdown clock. And I think that's really important because when I worked at Condé Nast, for example, I was there for about 10 years. And it is easy sometimes to get stuck in a velvet coffin where you're not really that challenged, but you're also comfortable. And it sounds like you've always aspired to challenge yourself as much as possible.
Absolutely. Being comfortable is the most dangerous place where you could be. Being comfortable means you end up settling. It means you end up not doing some of your best work because everything comes easy. And it means that you've also lost a sense of curiosity. And when you start settling into that, then your work is not always your best. So I like to stay on my tiptoes. I like to stay curious. I want to be hungry and I always want to be challenged. So if I'm not learning something new, that means I'm not growing. And if you're not growing, then you're dead. And I don't want to be dead. So for me, it was every 4 years.
Every 4 years. And so every 4 years or earlier, you would move up or move out. One of your biggest stints was at Nielsen, which most people know as a television ratings company, but obviously it does a lot more than that, a lot of marketing research. And one of the highlights of your career at Nielsen was bringing awareness to the multicultural consumer and how brands reacted to them. And I think that this is really significant because I'm of an age that I remember in the 80s, there was no such thing as multiculturalism, at least mainstream. I feel like in the 90s, it just began to become a part of the dialectic. And so I was curious, for you, was the experience the same? Did it formally exist for you before that time? And what were the catalysts for changing that multicultural paradigm in marketing?
For me, it was seeing all of the data come across my desk that I found fascinating, simply fascinating. Up until that point, I had no idea that companies cared about how often you visited a grocery store and how you spent your time inside that store and how what you watched on television influenced the time and the number of trips that you made to the store. For me, I recognize, well, if I don't know this, and I had spent 4 years in the television business and then 2 years before taking on this CPG role at Nielsen, I was on the television side of the business. And so I'd spent all these years and hadn't connected the dots about consumerism, especially as a person of color. And nobody was talking about that. So yes, I recognize if I didn't know it, chances are our clients didn't know the information and the consumers and organizations who were spending the money didn't know about it either. My goal was to share it out. And quite frankly, when I proposed the idea to my manager at the time, he said, okay, thanks. Yeah, no, we're not going to do that. Clients aren't asking for it. So it's not something we want to spend our bandwidth on. And I vehemently disagreed inside with him. So I started working with analysts around the department that could help me bring these numbers to life. And we went ahead and we created a report that to this day has garnered so many awards. We were able to successfully get clients to understand the consumption habits and behavior and buying power of multicultural consumers. I'm incredibly proud of the fact that I didn't let a no stop me.
Incredible. And it sounds like you relied on team members that you knew shared your values to help get you the information that you put together, essentially. And I'm just also shocked at the closed mindedness of, oh, if people aren't asking for it, must not exist.
I think one of the other ways that we were able to successfully move past that limited thinking was we had also established an external advisory council of multicultural leaders from around the country. And when they heard about the idea, they became champions for it and helped also do some of the research because many of them were researchers themselves. And that's how we were able to move this along. We recognize the value as people of color. We were Asian, we were African American, we were Hispanics, we were women. We recognized the value and we propelled it forward.
And that you did in a big way. And I want to talk about something that happens today and get your take on it. For social media, there's a month for everything. June, for example, is to celebrate LGBTQ plus people. And a lot of companies are accused of doing what's called rainbow washing, or just putting up a rainbow because it's June and saying, yeah, we're an ally. What is your point of view about how brands are reacting to multicultural consumers today? And is there a lot of that going on? Or how can you tell if a brand is authentic?
The easiest way to tell if a brand is authentic is to talk to their employees.
Yes.
Or to read their employees' post and to see if you go to their website, to see what their leadership looks like. What do their board members look like? What do their senior leaders look like? That's the way you meander around what I call the PR social media speak and get right to the heart of who the company truly is and whether or not they're walking the talk.
And what really matters is having that executive leadership and putting their money into a multicultural team is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, where are they putting their dollars? How are they promoting and elevating people of color, women? Like, what is that strategy around that? How do they celebrate the wins in that space? How do they champion bringing on a diverse slate of candidates for any role? What type of communication is happening with hiring managers so that they understand that it's important to have a diverse slate of candidates? And what gets celebrated with that? And how do those numbers look? What's their retention rate of associates of color? What's their attrition rate? And what really, when you peel back the layers, because I was invited into so many Fortune 500 companies to talk about diversity and inclusion and representation, I am still amazed at the number of times I got pulled over into a cloakroom or an empty office space to say, oh my God, I'm so glad you're here, because we really need our leadership to hear about how important this is. The leaders were bringing me in, but they weren't necessarily following the advice of their employees or even listening to them. And the employees didn't feel comfortable holding these conversations because, quite frankly, they worried about losing their jobs.
Of course. I mean, I hate to say of course, but it makes perfect sense that that is someone's fear. And that's so paralyzing when one feels that way. You decided to make a pivot to entrepreneurship. What made you decide to do that?
I started what I called back then a side hustle, my business, while I was still working at the company. What propelled me to do that was as one of the co-leads for Women in Nielsen, which was a 5,000 plus member ERG for women around the globe. I was getting a lot of emails and phone calls asking, hey, do you have a few minutes to just talk to me about what I can do to help advance or what I'm doing wrong? Or I went into a lot of those conversations. And I wasn't necessarily sharing with the company that I was helping employees, but the number of advancements and promotions started to happen with some of these women that I was coaching behind the scenes. And I recognized, you know what? That's what I'm meant to do is I'm meant to help other people kind of navigate this whole process of climbing the corporate ladder. And that's why I founded my company, Powerful Penny. I think that there's power in numbers, which is why I named it Penny, because pennies add up. So when you take things down to their lowest common denominator and build from there, you know that you've got power.
I love that. And I was wondering about penny, like why was it penny and not like the $100 bill? I mean, that doesn't really work in the name of a company, but that I love how simple that is and true. And the other thing that's amazing is it was a side hustle for you, but you were doing market research. You were validating your idea essentially. So you knew once you decided to transition that it was likely going to work because there was a need for it.
I knew it from both perspectives. I was a woman of color and I was climbing through the ranks. I had climbed through the ranks and I was an executive level leader. And I knew what we were looking for with people who were coming up through the ranks. And there was a disconnect. The people who were trying to get up didn't always know what we were looking for and how to align with those leaders. And so I try to be that link now for corporations and individuals in ensuring that the leadership is getting what they need and that those individuals who desire to go to the next level know how to best position themselves to do that.
And I was about to ask you, what does Powerful Penny do? But you have already answered that. Do you want to talk about the different ways in which people can work with you?
Yeah, so we are an executive coaching, consulting, and lifestyle firm. And we work with businesses who are interested in advancing diverse associates to next level. It impacts their corporate culture, it improves their retention numbers, and it really has a positive boost to their revenues as well. In 2023, we're moving toward working directly with the corporations because I've been getting a lot of corporations who have been calling to help them train and advance and prepare their diverse associates for next level. So we do that through our coaching programs. We do group coaching as well as executive one-on-one coaching. We've got online courses and webinars that we offer. And we also have what I call a set of empowerment tools. What is going to help you identify what your goals are, and then what are the steps you need to take to advance those goals. I call them big goals. I call big goals pink elephants. So what are you going to do? How do you eat those pink elephants? One small bite at a time. We work through with our empowerment tools how to break those big, huge pink elephants into minuscule small bites that you can track as you progress in your career. But I also focus on at work, in love, and at home.
Yeah, I saw that on your YouTube channel. You had some really great stuff on relationships.
Yeah, because it's not just about your work life. If you're unhappy in love, you show up a little bit differently at work. And if you're stepping out of chaos at home, then you're not bringing your best self to work. I believe that they're all integrated, and I believe you can have a life of fabulosity if you choose so, but it is definitely a choice. You have to do so with intentionality. And intentionality means simply plotting out exactly what it is, first identifying what you want, and then plotting it out small bite by small bite until you get it.
Do you believe that anyone can have fabulosity if they are intentional?
I do. It's a mindset. All of my sessions start with mindset, mind shifting from a fixed perspective, a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. I believe that I can do it. That is really, truly the first step because especially as women, which I focus on more than any other demo, but especially as women, we tend to talk ourselves out of things before we even try to give it a chance.
And then there's the dude who's in the conference room who just says whatever is on his mind. I mean, this is a generalization, and then everyone's like, yeah, great idea. And then it's probably something you've already thought of, but you didn't say because you thought, oh, no, that can't be right.
We don't own our great ideas. We don't believe that they can become reality. And so we stop. We just stop. I encourage women not to stop and to dream big. We do a vision board workshop that's coming up on the 18th of December, where we actually talk about what stops you from dreaming big. And we identify some of those obstacles and roadblocks that stop you from dreaming big and focus then on, well, what does big mean to you? Because big to you may mean something different than big to me. But having the audacity to even dream and to allow yourself to dream big is the first step.
I think that is so true. And what comes to me as a small business owner is you speak about corporations, and I understand how you work with them. But would a small business owner go to your website and look at courses, or do you do some webinars where people can see you live and work with you in that way? How do you satisfy the needs of small business owners who really do need your amazing energy and experience?
I satisfy in a couple of different ways. I have a regular newsletter that is published every Monday on LinkedIn. It's called Level Up with Grace, and it tackles some of these obstacles that pop up in our lives as we're trying to climb through the ranks. For women who are business owners and entrepreneurs, I think that my empowerment series of resources, the tools that I have, are really great in helping you identify, okay, what is it that you really want to work on right now? And then how are we going to do that annually, monthly, weekly, daily? And if you truly stay the course, and I'm going to tell you right now, it ain't easy. Staying the course is not easy.
It is not.
Life gets in the way, kids get sick, parents start to age, the dog needs to go to the vet. All of that will try to move you away from what you said was important to you. By making yourself the center of all of this and keeping your focus on you, especially if you're a business owner, that's the only way you're going to grow. Is you have to make yourself a priority. Treat yourself like you're someone you're responsible for is one of the steps listed in, I have to get his name, the book, 12 Steps. I'll give you the name of the book.
That's fine. We can put it in the show notes, but absolutely, it is.
Reardon is his last name, Reardon. But I think it's step number 4. Treat yourself like you are someone you're responsible for.
And I think women often, as women, right, we're taught not to take space. We're taught to be caretakers. I know for myself, when I started to really be mindful about taking care of myself, I felt my inner voice told me a little bit, oh, Dory, that's kind of selfish. And then I realized, whoa, like, what is that? What is that happening? And if we're not okay, we can't be good business owners. We can't be good to our own bodies. We can't be good to our children or anyone.
That's absolutely right. I mean, it's almost become a cliche at this point that self-care isn't selfish. I myself have never suffered from that because of my grandma. Go back to my grandma. I watched her with all of these kids and always serving everybody. And I'm like, I don't want to be like that. I want to make sure I have a great life too. TOO. So that means, yes, I am going to be a little bit selfish if that's the way you want to think of it, but I'm also going to be selfish with how I spend my time with you. I'm going to make sure that I'm selfish with me and I'm selfish with you. And that means that together, we're all going to be doing really great things as a family, as a friend, because I can bring my best self to you and not be apologetic about it.
Exactly. I'm sorry is a word that I am trying to eliminate from my vocabulary unless it's really heartfelt and something that I should be apologizing for. You coach both men and women. You mentioned that women are more of your demographic than men. Acknowledging that we're speaking in generalizations, of course, what would you say are the career hurdles that you see consistently by gender as a consultant?
Lack of confidence. Number one thing, lack of confidence. It doesn't matter what position someone is in. It doesn't matter what level of education they have obtained. It doesn't matter if they're in business for themselves. and that they've gone through the process of owning a business. Confidence is such a success sucker. It is amazing at how often I see these very accomplished women coming in when they're facing their next and not have confidence in what that looks like for them, and not have confidence in the fact that, well, I've achieved all of these other accolades. What makes me think I can't do this too? I'm just not ready. I need more education. I need more certification. I need more years of experience. I need. You have everything you need. You are enough. What you have to focus on is channeling that and believing in it. So it's, again, going back to changing your mindset and celebrating what you have done so that you can use that as a platform to lift you up to where you want to be next.
If we were to go a little bit more into intersectionality with women, what would you say are there differences between what you observe with challenges that white women face versus women of color? And I know that's a broad group. Just curious on that.
I think with women of color, particularly Black women, it is reassuring ourselves that we are even supposed to be in the room. We second guess ourselves. Like, how did I get here? Why did they choose me? Do they really want my true thoughts, or do they want my assimilated thoughts? And sometimes they are night and day. Recognizing that the diversity of perspective that we bring to the table can indeed move a company forward is something that we have to embrace. So again, if I had let my white male manager tell me that clients were not interested in multicultural insights, I would not have gone on to do these reports that like really served Nielsen well. I had to trust that I knew what was needed for people who look like me and people who wanted to understand people like me better. You couldn't keep putting things out through a blue-eyed lens if a brown-eyed person saw it differently and could help you with your client base, which is exactly what I was able to do with Nielsen. For women of color, Black women, Hispanic women, Latinas, API, it is owning the fact that your differences are worth hearing and learning and sharing about, because it can also impact a company's bottom line.
What would you say for white women? Is it confidence?
White women, a lot of it is confidence. A lot of it is being raised to be quiet, the quiet type in the back room, and not to shake the status quo. And again, it's owning your voice when you're in that room as a woman.
You help people advance their careers, as you said, right? Step by step. I know it's not a simple formula, or maybe it is. Fabulosity. It's a word that just makes me want to smile. It makes me happy and it's energetic. You've talked about some of the mindset shifts that people have to make. After they've made the mindset shift, what are the next steps that go into fabulosity?
First of all, after they make the mindset shift, there's something that changes in them. A light bulb goes off. Then we sit down and we write SMART goals. We are making sure that those goals are big and that they're passionate about them, and that they're operating these goals from a point of what I love, not from a point of lack. So I was on a call with a client this morning, and she was talking about her goal of losing weight, and she just couldn't do it because she just couldn't drink or make another green shake. And I'm like, do you like green shakes? And she said, no, I don't. Then why would you be forcing yourself to do something that you don't like and then questioning why it's not working? How about we start with, what do you love? Well, I love Brussels sprouts. I love, lima. Well, why don't we start there? And instead of the green shakes, why don't you do Brussels sprouts? You can have Brussels sprouts for breakfast. You can do whatever you want to do. There are no rules to fabulosity. The only rules are those that you decide are important for you. Everything else, you can toss them out the window. Do what you love, and that's how you end up with a fabulous life.
That is so freeing. I love it. What would you say is the most overlooked reason for employee dissatisfaction? And you can answer it by demographic if there's a difference.
The most overlooked reason for employee dissatisfaction is not feeling valued or heard or respected. When you don't feel that you've been heard, that you have a voice, that you can speak up, that your manager is going to respect what you said, that someone else is not going to, usually a male, take those ideas and present them back as their own, which causes you to shut down. When you feel that you're not being seen, valued, or heard, it is enough to stop you from doing or saying anything. And you settle into being comfortable and playing small. So when employees feel that way, and then, they wonder, because they're playing small, well, I'm not getting a promotion.
And then they get resentful.
They don't understand their connection to the outcome. I encourage people how to have some of those courageous conversations, how to go in fully prepared with your conversation and dialogue for your performance evaluation. I talk you through how to raise your hand and ask for a promotion, when the best time is to ask for a promotion, because there's a timing to it, right? So you don't have to deal with we don't have the money in the budget. I talk them through how to take whatever it is. And first of all, it's just claiming it. I've had people who said to me, I'd love to be in a senior level role making great money. That is so vague. That means nothing. Versus, I want to be a VP earning $150,000 a year. I want to be a VP of corporate communications earning $150,000 a year. Difference. So you know exactly what you're going after. Even then, people will say, well, I want to be a VP, but they apply for director level roles. I'm like, how are you going to be a VP if you're still applying for a director level role? When you say what you want, you have to go for that, what you want, and not be apologetic about going after it, and not limit yourself with your own self-talk about why you're not ready yet to be a VP. It all works together, and that mindset is really incredible. And then making sure, again, that you break out the small steps, the milestones along the way. So if you want to be a VP, then you want to make sure that your resume looks and reads like a VP level resume. So that may be a cog that you have to tackle first. And then you want to only apply for VP roles. And then you want to make sure, right? So it is step by step. And that's what I help work clients through, is through that whole step-by-step process, so that they feel empowered to go after what it is that they say they want.
And that type of mentorship is so hard to find. So the fact that you're able to do it with the level of expertise that you have is incredible. For women that are entering the workforce, anyone from a college graduate to maybe a woman who might be re-entering for whatever reason, might be older, what are 3 things that she can do today to make herself stand out to employers, potential employers?
The first thing is to get clarity around what she wants. That's the first huge, where is it that you want? If you want to work in corporate America, or do you want to own your own business? Where do you think you'd like to work in corporate America? Name names of the companies. Don't be afraid to say, I want to work for Twitter, or I want to work for Google, or I want to work, in some other social media outlet. So first of all, get clarity on what you want. And then the next step is to identify other people who have already gotten what you say you want. You can do that by reading interviews. You can do that by looking at LinkedIn, typing out titles of VPs, of folks who work at any of the platform companies that you want to go work for, and then have an informational interview with them. Find out what it took for them to get there.
Exactly, because it's not only what they did today, it's what they did 10 years ago that you want to look at.
Absolutely. And then find out where that gap is. Give yourself an allotted amount of time to close any gaps. You don't need to spend 5 years closing a gap if 3 months will do.
Which can also be a reason not to do things, right? It can be an excuse. When people fail to meet their goals, what are the most common reasons for that? And how do you ensure that people maximize their chance of success? What do you tell them?
When people fail, it's for one of two reasons. The number one reason is they stop. The reason they stop is generally because they got overwhelmed. So they stopped, they were overwhelmed, or they weren't sure what to do next. And so they did nothing. One of my early coaches that I trained under was Lisa Nichols. She used to say to us, action is the antidote to despair.
And anxiety, right?
So when you don't know what to do, do something. Do something. And that something may or may not work, but it propels you into action. So the law of gravity says it's harder to stop something when it's moving than it is when it's not moving. So you want to be moving forward and you want to make it hard to stop yourself.
The visual is so true. Yes, you start to roll down a hill, you start to gain momentum, and then you reach fabulosity.
Yes, absolutely.
What advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, people ask that question a lot. I've always been a pretty confident person. And I think at some point in my career, I felt like I needed to tamp my fabulosity factor down because it intimidated other people. And I would tell myself, don't tamp yourself down. Just go and grow.
You do you.
Don't just be you. Don't tamp yourself down and trust your gut. Those are the two things.
Amen. I love it. This has been so wonderful. Where can listeners learn more about you and how to have a fabulosity career?
Yes. So you can follow me on any of the social media platforms under I am Cheryl Grace. That's the handle. I am Cheryl Grace. My website is iamcherylgrace.com. And LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where my tribe lives.
Yes.
For career related issues. And so Level Up with Grace is my newsletter that comes out every Monday. I'd love to have them subscribe to that. And they can just follow me at Cheryl Grace on LinkedIn as well.
And she has a great YouTube channel. It is really good. I think it's...
Oh, thank you. Cheryl's channel of fabulosity.
Yes, with the pink couch, right? I loved it. It was great.
Live from the pink couch. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh my God, this has been so wonderful, Doria. I appreciate that you're doing this because women need what you have to offer. And kudos to you for recognizing the value in bringing these stories to other women who may not otherwise have access to them. So thank you so much for including me in your podcast.
Absolutely. And thank you for having the courage to show up authentically. That is not easy for some, but you are fabulous.
Thank you.
You've been listening to SheVentures. Like what you heard? You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to subscribe and sign up for our newsletter so you never miss a show.